What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. With this video, we are jumping into Batman the Knight, issue number 3 of 10. If you haven't been keeping up with the Knight, go ahead, check out the link in my description, as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything going on with this series. This is one story that I have been really excited about because Henri Ducard is playing such a major role in it. For those that don't know, Henri Ducard, he is the one that trained Batman. He trained Bruce Wayne to be the world's best detective. If there is anybody out there that is better at being a detective, it is Henri Ducard, with Bruce Wayne more or less taking a sabbatical, traveling the world, trying to find his place in it, trying to figure out if he wants to be the Batman or something of that nature. He knows he has a higher calling. He knows he wants to do good in the world. And his trip to Paris, this is where it all begins. Be sure to buy the comic, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 3, we are picking up at the house of Mr. Glunet. This is a CEO oil man, and his house had been robbed. With him being an extremely wealthy man, the police, they have come out in droves trying to find out what happened here. Now we know that Bruce Wayne and his new accomplice, they broke into this place and they robbed him, getting their hands on a jewelry box. It isn't until they get back home that Bruce Wayne opens it up, and what they find inside is human teeth. And so the police, they don't know it yet, but the man they have in front of them is known as the Foundling. He is the serial killer that has been ravishing the city. Quietly sitting underneath the nose of the police, they are absolutely clueless to everything he has done and the man they have in front of him. Taking us across the city, we are picking up with Bruce Wayne. Currently sitting here in his underwear, we have Henri Ducard, who came barging in with Lucy in his arms, having her at gunpoint. Henri Ducard, knowing who he is, Bruce Wayne is completely caught off guard. Letting Lucy go, he begins to explain exactly what he is doing here. Now Henri Ducard, his job is to find people, and one of his most recent clients hired him to find Bruce Wayne. That client is Alfred Pennyworth. Bruce Wayne never said a word to him, he just took off. He left to Paris, and so Alfred took things into his own hands. To make sure that Bruce Wayne was okay, he hired the world's best detective to track down Bruce Wayne and find out what he is up to. Alfred isn't looking to bring him home. What Alfred wants to do is to have a phone call. He wants Bruce Wayne to call him, let him know that he is okay. Maybe attempt to try and talk some sense into him. But this is one of the first times that Bruce Wayne is truly out there on his own with no help, no support, no Alfred. For Alfred, Bruce Wayne is his son. Letting the baby bird out of the nest. You can only imagine how difficult for Alfred this is. Now before Henry can go on and continue his little rant, this is when he looks down on the table, he sees the jewelry box, and he sees the teeth that had fallen out of it. Asking where they came from, Lucy, without any hesitation, lets Henry know exactly where these were from. Not even caring about Bruce Wayne anymore. He has a new objective, because the Foundling, the serial killer that is out there murdering people, he keeps the teeth as mementos. Which means Henri Ducard, he has finally gotten the final piece to the puzzle. He knows exactly who was responsible for these 14 murders. At the police station, we have Mr. Glunet. He is getting a police escort out to one of his secluded locations where he can lay low for a little while. As they are driving out to the wilderness, he has much more sinister plans at play. Pulling over to the side of the road, the officer gets out of his car, goes over to see if everything is okay, only to bend down and get his throat slit. With our serial killer now on the loose, more than likely headed after after his next target. That is exactly what Henri Ducard is about to find out. Working with Bruce and Lucy, they are trying to figure out what happens next. With the TV being turned on, the newscaster is letting them know that our serial killer, he put out a message saying that he is going after the Prime Minister. Henri Ducard, he knows that this is a deflect. He is trying to throw them off of their scent. So while the police force and everyone else, they are going to be sitting and waiting for the serial killer to show his face, Henri Ducard, he wants to lure the serial killer out. And that is through the jewelry box. With Lucy finding a local fence, they're gonna put it onto the black market, and with a little bit of luck, this serial killer might hear on the black market that the box is up for grabs. With it having the teeth and the mementos of those he has killed, he is gonna be looking high and low for this thing. And so while everyone goes their separate ways as they prepare this plan, Henri makes it very clear that he doesn't want Bruce around, because Bruce, he's young, he's inexperienced, and honestly, he doesn't know what he is doing. And at this point, even Lucy is suggesting that maybe he should go home. Maybe you are over your head, and maybe this is just far too much for you. But Bruce refuses to leave. More than anything, it's because of how much he admires Henri Ducard, seeing how well he is at finding people, at using these detective skills. He is quickly recognizing that these are skills he is going to need. Picking up a little bit later at a diner, we have Lucy meeting up with the fence, and we have Henri and Bruce off to the side keeping an eye on the situation. With Bruce being an absolute novice to all of this, he continuously is side-eyeing and he's making himself look very suspicious. So much so that the fence, he notices Bruce. And in a matter of seconds, he is pulling out a gun, he is pointing it at Bruce. Bruce, he reacts. He jumps up, grabs the gun, tries to fight it away from the man. But the man, he pulls that trigger. And when that gun goes off, it hits Henri Ducard directly in the stomach. Henri falling down to the ground, bleeding out. He tells the others that they need to get out of here before the police arrive. And now Bruce is finally learning that he is nothing more than a liability in these situations. He messed up, and in him messing up, he got a man shot today. Luckily, Henri is recovering in the hospital, but not only did he get Henri shot, Henri was the only person that knew the identity of our serial killer. Henri knew that they wouldn't be going after the Prime Minister. All of the police, they are going to be focused on that, while someone else is getting diced up. And so Lucy and Bruce, they start going through all the notes. They start trying to connect all the dots. And the dots they connect is Mr. Globet. He was from an orphanage. Many of these individuals lost their parents in some kind of tragic accident, or they never had parents to begin with, resenting the young kids that grew up with him. He has been targeting them one by one, with only one individual that could be left, a Claude Laurent. Our serial killer wanted to kill those that he grew up with because of their happiness. The pain that he felt, it never went away. And so he wanted to make the world feel this pain, taking families away using knives. But he saved this last one, this grand moment for him, because this was the kid that was happy, that was successful, that made a family for himself. Not only that though, back at the orphanage, he was a happy individual. He made a good life for himself, even though they all lived in this orphanage. He resented that, he hated that, and now he has come to take it away from him. Bruce Wayne trying to hurry across town and make it to this guy's house, coming and crashing through the window, seeing his wife off to the side, absolutely terrified. But it appears that Bruce Wayne, he was too late. Being caught completely off guard, the serial killer comes up from behind him. He hits him in the back of the head, knocking Bruce for a freaking loop. He falls down to the ground. And this is where he comes eye to eye with Claude. And unfortunately, Claude has already been diced up. Looking at this man's dead eyes, Bruce finds himself in shock, thinking that this is far too much. How do you stop this? How do you stop a monster without becoming the monster? Bruce, finding it within himself, he begins to lay into this guy, recognizing that these kids, their lives will forever be altered, their father taken away from them in the most gruesome way possible. Bruce hits the murderer once, he hits him twice, he continues to pummel him until Lucy comes in to pull him off. That anger, that hostility, all of that built up rage. This is the first time that Bruce Wayne truly connected with that darkness in him. And so with our serial killer taken off the streets, we pick up a little bit later, Bruce Wayne making a phone call, leaving a message for Alfred, just letting him know that he is safe, that he won't be coming home, that this won't be forever, and he loves him. With the serial killer now behind bars, Henri Ducard is still in the hospital, and that is exactly where Bruce Wayne is headed. He wants to be better, he wants to be the best, and Henri Ducard, he is the world's greatest detective. If he is going to learn from anybody, this is exactly who he wants to learn from. So he is going to go sit by his bedside, be his assistant, get him coffees, do whatever it is he needs to do so that he can learn from the greatest. With Lucy and him going their separate ways, they do their kiss, they say their goodbyes, because she knows that Bruce Wayne and that darkness inside of him, he is not meant to do this kind of private investigation work. That his time with Henri Ducard is going to be short-lived. He's going to learn what he needs to learn, and then he will go about his way. But she tries to warn him of that darkness, saying that if he lets that anger, lets that rage control him, he could very well see himself becoming the monster. Taking us back to Gotham, we have Alfred sitting here playing the message over and over and over, playing that last bit that says, "This isn't forever, and I love you." You can see the sadness in his eyes. You can see the worry. You can understand the concern. Because while Alfred would love to go out there and rescue him, bring Bruce Wayne back home into the safety of the mansion, he's gotta let him be his own man. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, like I said in the beginning, I have very much been looking forward to this line. This was our first introduction, more or less, of Henri Ducard. Now, we saw him in another line, but that's when Batman is in the far future, so on and so forth. You know, their time together was far in the past. This story is giving us the early days, when they first meet each other, and when Henry takes Bruce under his wing. With 7 more issues, there is a crap ton of story that we are going to get in this. We are truly going to see what it is like for Bruce Wayne to become the world's greatest detective, to see the man he learned it from, and see Bruce Wayne truly start to become the Batman. Of course, the saddest part of this issue is watching Alfred play that message over and over and over again. You can only feel for him. Imagine the sorrow, the worry, the concern that he is feeling for Bruce Wayne. And the only thing he has is a message to play on repeat. The only thing he has of him right now are those words letting him know that Bruce Wayne will be back. And while that's not the comfort he wanted, that is the only comfort that he is going to get, at least for right now. So let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. If you truly enjoy the content that we have, go ahead and check out that super like button. You can donate to the channel, I believe as little as $1. And if you have a comic that you would like us to cover, go ahead and mention it in your comment when you donate, and I guarantee we will cover that issue for you. And so, until the next breakdown.